Hello Internet, my name is the Golden Stalfos, and today we're going to talk about math. And specifically, we're going to talk about two things that happen in math that I really don't like. One thing that lots of people talk about is, there's this really big finite number, and therefore that's impressive. And sometimes numbers like that serve a purpose, or there's something interesting about how they were derived, but mostly they're just like, yeah, you can get an infinite number of big numbers without getting to infinity. That's how numbers work. And the other really annoying thing is quote unquote unprovable theorems. They're like, oh, this has stumped us for so long. Of course it's unprovable. It's like axiomatically unprovable. Like the nature of the way the question is phrased makes no sense for finding a proof in the first place. So why would you try to prove it? Yeah. So today I'm going to provide examples of both of those things just to show how easy it is to do that. And hopefully I won't make a complete fool of myself because I'm not a mathematician, so But also I realize that while these things get a lot of media attention, they aren't necessarily the things that mathematicians actually spend their time on. And I'm sure that a lot of mathematicians also agree that these things shouldn't get the kind of media attention that they do, but whatever. So first, let's make an absurdly big number. And just for the sake of it, I'm going to try and make a number that is bigger than any other number that people have made. Now, as far as I know, the biggest defined number so far that has like a name and stuff is Rayo's number, which is defined as basically the smallest number that's so big it can't be defined using a Google's worth of symbols in set notation. Now that is vastly oversimplifying the definition of the number, but I can link to the number file video about it. It's big. It's a big number. Don't worry about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function that can be applied to any value of n, and I'm going to use Rayo's number as the value of n. Now you could just say, oh, well, it's that number plus 1 or times 2 or factorial or whatever, but that's boring, just slapping a power 2 symbol on someone else's number is too easy, too simple. Of course, at the same time, in order to make sure that I make a number bigger than his, I need to use a number that's at least in the same ballpark. It can probably be off by quite a few digits, but it needs to be somewhat comparable. For a shorthand, I'll just use his number. So the function works like this. You take any predefined sequence greater than n. Since we're working with such a big number, we're just going to take an infinite sequence, like, say, pi, or Euler's number, or the Fibonacci sequence, whatever. And you're going to take the first n digits of that number and use those to do your math. And what you do is you take each digit, you put it to the power of its own factorial, and put that total to the power of the next digit's total. So, for example, if you start with pi is 3.14. So 3 factorial is 6. So 3 to the power of 6 is 729. The next digit is a 1, so none of the math changes. 1 factorial is 1. 1 to the power of 1 is 1. And 1 times anything is just the thing you were multiplying before. It is boring. So the next number is 4. So then you take 4 to the power of 4 factorial, and 4 factorial is 24. So 4 to the power of 24, at least according to my calculator, is 2.8 with about 14 digits following that. And so then you take 729 to the power of 2.8e14, and then your calculator breaks, or at least mine does. Now the first few digits of this sequence from pi may be calculable on supercomputers at a university somewhere, but you'll very quickly get beyond the range of what we are currently able to calculate. However, the end result is still considered a calculable number because if you had infinite computing power, it could be derived. There is a known method to derive it. And the number is finite. Since you're combining a finite number of terms in a specified way, you can't get an infinite value. And since we're using Rayo's number for n, we know that the end result will be vastly larger than Rayo's number. But I'm going to take it one step further. We're going to apply this process to all named infinite sequences. Pi, theta, e, the golden ratio, Fibonacci sequence, all the named infinite sequences are going to have this process applied to them. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take all those named sequences and apply this process and then order the resulting number by magnitude. So let's say the value of this process when done to pi is greater than the value of this process when done to e, which is greater than the value of this process when done to Fibonacci, right? Just for example. I don't know if the numbers would shake out that way, but we'll just say for example. And then you apply this process again to each of those values in sequence. And the total result of that is my new big number, which I'm going to call the golden bone number, and we'll call the function the skeleton function. Now, some people may still say that using Rayo's number as n is unfair to Rayo and kind of cutting through the spirit of coming up with big numbers. So okay, we'll come up with a big number a different way. It won't even be as big. All right, let's say the tree of G being Graham's ladder, but instead of using Graham's number, which is Graham's ladder 64, we're going to use Graham's ladder MQ factorial MQ. MQ is something I just made up, which represents the maximum value of quarks that could theoretically fit in the known universe. Not the maximum number of quarks that exist, but the maximum number that could theoretically fit within the volume of the universe. And when I say MQ factorial MQ, what I mean is the number of factorials applied to MQ equal to the value of MQ. I don't know if there's better notation for that. I'm not a mathematician. I don't know what the notation is for applying dozens of factorials or bazillions of factorials. So if you want the golden bone number to be derived without using Rayovs, then you can use that number I just gave off instead. The tree of G MQ factorial MQ. There you go. Which, by the way, I'm fairly certain that value is substantially smaller than Rayo's number, but it should still work, theoretically. So there you go. We made an incredibly big number out of nowhere for no reason, just to say we made a big number, and we even gave it a silly name that references the channel. That's nice. So now let's make an unsolvable theorem, and this is going to be the golden skeleton theorem. So the theorem is that there are more odd numbers than even numbers in any sequence whose digits are greater than Graham's number. Meaning that, if you count up all of the numbers, there will be more odds than evens. That's it. That's the theorem. You can't prove it or disprove it. We can't even write down all the digits of Graham's number or anything comparably large, and we probably never will be able to, and so we can't possibly prove whether or not there are more odds or evens in a naturally derived sequence of that size. Obviously, it can't just be a 1 followed by an infinite number of zeros. That's not the same thing. I'm talking about sequences where you can't really predict what the next number is going to be unless you work it out. So yeah, that's the theorem. Very rigorous and official. Now, I'm sure that the language used in this video is very confusing to people who aren't up to date on their internet math lingo, and I'm absolutely certain that everything in this video will infuriate people who actually really know math better than some schmuck like me does, to which I say, good, that was the point. Congratulations. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to tune in next time when I do something completely different and unrelated to this. And I'll see you in the next life. Laters. Hey, Endcard here. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Seriously though, please subscribe. I have no subscribers. It's sad. If you want to find me on other social media stuff, you can do that at the Golden Stalfos on basically everything. Links to that are in the description, as well as to some charities I like but am obviously not affiliated with. I also have a Patreon if you like me so much that you want to give me money, though obviously only do that if you have money to burn, and if you do have money to burn, they're the charities I mentioned before. They probably need it more than I do. Mad ups to my girlfriend for doing all the editing for these videos. It's a really big help. Oh, and I occasionally stream on Twitch, so follow me there so you don't miss it. I don't have a formal schedule because when I tried to have a formal schedule, I couldn't keep to it. So, oh well. Okay, thanks, bye!